story came out today with Players Tribune about J.R. Ryder and you guys in practice going up against each other, one-on-one. Looks like you remember what I'm talking about. What do you remember about that time? And in that story, you smoked him. Who beat you in one-on-one if it ever happened in practice?
People's Kid, how we doing? It's your boy Kobe back yet again with another video, and as always, hope you guys are having a blessed day. I haven't done a rankings topic in a while, and I thought I might as well get on one that I've had in my back pocket for a minute, but just didn't have the time to make. Considering all the scoring going on in the NBA this year, I decided it was fitting to touch on the topic of the greatest one-on-one players in league history. To be blunt, there is a lot of variability that I'm sure people have with how the rankings look, but I just want to say, I think my list is pretty strong, and you're definitely not going to want to miss it. Obviously, one-on-one you think mainly face-up and guard play, but today we're going to be including big men on this list. Per usual, if you guys enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe, and with that said, let's hop right into the video. Honorable mention number 1, Carmelo Anthony. Kicking off the honorable mentions, it is only right to start with a player that does not go without controversy. Yes, Carmelo Anthony is a player that I know some fans are mixed about regarding his legacy, but there can be no qualms about his scoring ability. After winning the national championship with Syracuse in 2003, Melo was drafted by the Denver Nuggets and proceeded to do what he does best over the next 15 years, put the ball in the basket. While some may remember the Carmelo who played the role of spot-up shooting during his international career with Team USA, Carmelo made his money in the NBA by having one of the most lethal one-on-one games the league has ever seen. Beyond referencing his career averages of 24 points a game, Anthony carried the respect of his peers, with many of them saying he was the hardest player for them to guard.
Does it all, and he's strong as a bull.
Whether it was his nasty face-up with the deadly pull-up jab, or the mid-post game that you could simply only hope to contain, there were several times in Anthony's career where he was simply unguardable. And even if he never wins a title or makes the playoffs again, this is something you cannot take away from him. Honorable mention number 2, Kyrie Irving. You ever have a situation where you have an opinion about something and there's really no way to justify it or explain it with hard facts? Well, Kyrie Irving here fits this bill perfectly. He's never averaged more than 25 a game, he's prone to poor shooting nights like plenty of other guys, and his scoring splits show only marginal advantage over contemporary players like Damian Lillard and Kemba Walker. Yet with that said, when you consider the eye test and the God-given natural ability Irving plays with on the court, I have no question I am watching one of the best one-on-one players in league history. Drafted first overall in 2011 after only 11 games at Duke, Irving immediately came on the scene to mesmerize the rest of the league with his unparalleled ball handling and crafty finishing at the rim. Although he doesn't have the blinding quickness of a John Wall or the athleticism of Russell Westbrook, Kyrie is a pure artist on the basketball court and brings a level of creativity to his game we've rarely seen before. Number 10, Allen Iverson. If you want to talk about a player who brought some culture with respect to how we see one-on-one players in the NBA, go no further than Mr. Allen Iverson. As a ridiculous athlete that probably could have played in the NFL if he wanted to, Iverson first showed his scoring skills on the national scene while at Georgetown for 2 years, and his play warranted him selection as the number 1 pick in the 1996 NBA draft. In his rookie season, Iverson arguably had one of the most iconic crossovers in NBA history, where he crossed up Michael Jordan with a long-form crossover we rarely see nowadays in the league. And despite not wanting to practice, Iverson's brand of play became synonymous with individual isolation buckets, perhaps none more meaningful than the step-back jumper he had over Ty Lue in Game 1 of the 2001 NBA Finals. But for all the talk on his handles and quickness, I actually think it gets understated a bit how good Iverson was as a scorer. Even after 2 middling years at the end of his career where he averaged 17.4 points per game and 13.8 points per game respectively, AI still ranks 7th all-time in career points per game at 26.7 and most likely could have finished 3rd behind Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain if he would have hanged it up a little sooner. Considering it is still a debate if he was actually 6 foot tall, he is definitely pound for pound one of the greatest players the NBA has ever seen. Number 9, James Harden. Oh boy, I know I might have triggered some people with this name, but in reality, to leave James Harden off a ranking list of the best one-on-one players is like making a move on your best mate's ex-girlfriend. You just can't do it no matter how much you might want to. While you may gripe about his play style and his reliance on foul calls from the refs to boost up his scoring, the truth is Harden is one of the most unguardable players in league history, and you pretty much have to live with the results no matter who you have to guard him. After modestly leading the league in isolation possessions per game between 2015-2018, Harden's ISOs in the past 2 years has shot up to an unprecedented rate, right around 15 possessions per game. For reference, the second highest player this year is LeBron at 5.9 possessions, nearly 2/3 less. In the ISO, Harden's decision point is not that complicated, as I'd say 90% of the time he'll either shoot a step back three or drive into the lane. The tricky part as a defender, however, is guessing right on what he plans to do, because just when you think he's setting up his step back, he's blown past you and is now thinking alley-oop, floater, or layup. No player keeps you in quicksand more, and beyond all the gaudy stats he's putting up, the respect players have for his game speaks volumes about his deserved spot on this list. Number 8, Wilt Chamberlain. Putting a man at number 8 who averaged 50 points per game might seem a bit low, but make no mistake, Wilt Chamberlain is one of the best one-on-one players the league has ever seen. While some might argue his game doesn't fit the mold of a traditional one-on-one type of player, what Chamberlain lacked in finesse, he more than compensated with his pure physicality. Standing 7'1", 276 pounds, and a wingspan of 7'8", Wilt was a genetic marvel in his era and would still be a physical freak in today's game. Just for comparison, Anthony Davis, a player whose physical profile leaves NBA fans in shock, is listed at 6'10" with a 7'6" wingspan. Pretty crazy, but not at Wilt's level. Nonetheless, thanks to his incredible coordination and ridiculous durability for someone of that frame, Chamberlain finished his career with the second highest scoring average of all time, while averaging 45.8 minutes per game doing so. Perhaps even more impressive of a number. Number 7, Larry Bird. When you consider a player like Larry Bird, it's a bit funny that his name might not instantly come to your mind when you think of the greatest one-on-one players of all time. In fact, it might be a bit of a compliment to his all-around game, but there is no question Bird was deadly in his ability to generate offense in ISO situations for the Celtics over his career. And although I think most basketball historians will agree Magic Johnson comes out slightly ahead all time as the better overall player, nobody can argue Larry Legend was not only a better all-around scorer, but he most likely beat Magic in a game of one-on-one when you think about all the ways in which he could beat you. He can drive, he can shoot, and carries unbelievable creativity just when you think you've stopped him. No doubt, Larry Bird's scoring deserves all the respect that I think sometimes we don't do a good enough job mentioning in these discussions. Number 6, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I always make it a point whenever it comes time to talk about Kareem on my channel, this man has the case for GOAT as much as anyone. 6 NBA titles, 6 NBA MVPs, far and away the greatest college player of all time, and the NBA's all-time scoring leader. The resume is not only clear, it is freaking overwhelming. So of course, if we focus solely on his one-on-one ability, it shouldn't come as a surprise to see him rank so high all time. Carrying perhaps the most unguardable move in his repertoire, the Kareem skyhook he perfected over the course of his career symbolizes the model of consistency of his game for over 2 decades. Even though his career average of 24 points per game comes up a bit short in comparison to the top 5, there is no question he's a top 5 player overall all time, and the greatest Laker to ever put on the jersey. Number 5, Shaquille O'Neal. Speaking of greatest Lakers of all time, here's a player that I think warrants some attention. If we're being literal with the question, who is the greatest one-on-one player ever, it is certainly a debate to argue Shaq would win a hypothetical tournament simply due to the size and strength of this guy. Unfortunately, for the younger viewers, including myself, who didn't get to see Shaq at his absolute most dominant version, there is a bit of recency bias that plays a part in making us forget what a typical day at the office looked like for him. Take this play for example. Gets the ball in the post, a couple dribbles, and a drop step dunk. Literally guys, that was not something he did one time in a game. It was literally countless times a game, every game, for a good 7 to 8 years of his career. He was unstoppable, and what's crazy is he could and probably should have been even better if he really wanted to be the GOAT. But hey, I guess being a consensus top 10 player all time isn't a bad consolation prize. Number 4, LeBron James. Similar to Larry Bird, LeBron gets an unfair rep for his scoring ability, and I still find it hilarious when NBA fans try to make the case that guys like Melo and Kyrie are better scorers than him. For a player that has a 27 points per game career average for his career over 17 years, I've never seen so much disrespect when it comes to the discussion of his ability to score the basketball. Even where we narrow the debate to simply ISOs in one-on-one situations, there aren't 5 better players than LeBron with the ball in his hands all time. Despite not having a signature move that has carried guys like Kareem or James Harden in his career, LeBron very subtly carries a set of several moves that he utilizes throughout a ball game, but because they are so variable, we don't often remember them, as well as say a Harden step back. For example, I don't think I've ever seen a LeBron side step back jumper blocked, nor have I rarely seen LeBron miss on his left to right spin in transition. And in clutch moments, stats have shown he's actually far better than how the narrative goes. Number 3, Kobe Bryant.
If I was in my prime, who would I want to play one-on-one with? That list is very long. I don't think I lose. Other than Kobe Bryant, because he steals all my moves.
Persistence and the will to win. Out of all the players on this list, Kobe Bryant was the least likely to turn out to be one of the greatest one-on-one players in NBA history. Drafted 13th overall in the 1996 NBA draft, Kobe had a ton of potential, but he was definitely a bit raw coming into the league, evident from his first 2 seasons that showed he was far from a finished product. But because of a work ethic that might be tops all time, Kobe went into the hyperbolic time chamber and became one of the deadliest ISO players the game has ever seen. Beyond just the numbers that show him to be among the NBA's greatest, the culture he added to the game is undeniable. When you think of one-on-one NBA players, if Kobe doesn't come first to mind, he definitely comes second to mind. Because over the course of his career, a lot of his game spoke the confidence of him saying, "You cannot take me one-on-one, and I'm going to make this impossible shot to prove it to you." Doing this time and time and time again, there is no way he isn't a top 3 one-on-one player of all time. Number 2, Kevin Durant. Oh wow, perhaps the most controversial slot I think we've had so far, but there is no way it should be warranted. Because as someone who has watched this guy score in ISO situations time and time again, Kevin Durant is a player that is the living definition of what you would call a pure, unguardable one-on-one player. He's nearly 7 foot, moves like a guard, and can shoot and handle like he's Kyrie Irving or Steph Curry. If you were to make a 2K build of a human cheat code, it would probably turn out to look something like Kevin Durant. In his prime, there is no single player that could stop him from getting a good look, and it's hard to think of scenarios in which I remember a jump shot of his getting blocked. Averaging 27 points per game for his career, you have to note this modest scoring is a result of him playing in systems where he simply had other high usage players that also demanded some of the ball throughout the game. While this helped his efficiency, it is still a mystery how much he could have averaged if he really put his mind to it. My guess is it wouldn't look too different as to what Harden is doing right now. Number 1, Michael Jordan. Was there ever any doubt? Call it respect, call it nostalgia, call it facts. A list of the best one-on-one NBA players all time that doesn't have Michael Jordan at number 1 isn't a real list. Talk about a guy that single-handedly built the culture of what it means to be an ISO player. With the classic fadeaway mid-range J in his back pocket, Jordan made it clear there is not a person on planet Earth that could realistically contain him over the course of 48 minutes. 6 titles, 2 three-peats, and 6 finals MVPs. The biggest props I give to Jordan for his one-on-one ability is that he translated it into bettering his team and winning championships. And sure, there have been others that have been able to model their game after him and deliver success, but why choose a clone when you can have the original? I always hate saying this because it can't be proved, but if you were to play in the NBA today, where the three-point shot was encouraged and the hand checks weren't around, I'm sorry, but he'd probably average 40 a game, easily. When you start to include the fact he holds the career points per game average at 30.1 points, nothing more needs to be said that there is no question Michael Jeffrey Jordan is number 1 on the list of the 10 greatest one-on-one players in NBA history. Anyways guys, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed. Just a fun list and who I believe to be the best one-on-one players of all time. What do you guys think? Is Jordan really number 1? Did I put Durant too high? Comment your thoughts below. With that said, hope you guys have a great rest of the day, or night, or whatever time it is. I'll be back at it soon. Peace out.